Welcome to session 5 of my Rising Strong Bible study, where we look at stories from the Bible through the lens of Brene Brown's Rising Strong process. Today we have an Old Testament story that shows the third stage of this process, revolution. We've already gone through the first stage of reckoning, of being able to finally admit that there is a problem. We've gone through the rumble where we work through what is at stake here and what can we do about it. And now we are at the stage of revolution where all of this hard emotional work is put into play. Today we have the story of David and Abigail, a lesser known story, and yet it is a good one. Here we see Abigail in the background, and then she becomes a main player in this story. She is a perfect example of revolution. And really, in this process, David is going through this as well. We are towards the end of 1 Samuel, when David is preparing to become king. He is at odds with King Saul, and yet he isn't sure what to do. He has had opportunities to kill Saul, but he has not taken them. And so today we hear another story of David having an opportunity for violence. This is the story of David and Abigail according to 1 Samuel chapter 25. After Samuel died, David went down to the region of Maon. There, in that region, there was a rich man. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. His name was Nabal, and his wife, Abigail, was beautiful and intelligent. But Nabal was cruel and rude. When it came time for sheep shearing, David sent 10 of his men to Nabal with this message: "Grace and peace to you and to your household. When your men were in the field with their sheep, my men protected yours so that no thieves attacked them. Now that you are shearing your sheep, may you return your gratitude with a gift of provisions of food." They said all of this in the name of David. But Nabal responded to them and said, "Who is this David? Who is this son of Jesse? Why would I take the food that I have prepared for my sheep shearers and give them to a band of outlaws?" Well, then David's men returned to him and told them everything that Nabal had said. And David responded by saying, "Strap on your swords." And so he took 400 men with him to approach Nabal. He left 200 of his men at camp to protect their supplies. Meanwhile, a servant of Nabal came to Abigail and said to her everything that had happened, saying, "When we were in the field, David's men did protect us. They were like a wall of protection so that we didn't need to worry about what or who might attack us. Please do something. Otherwise, we are all in danger." Well, Abigail immediately got to work. She gathered up 200 loaves of bread, 2 wineskins full of wine, 5 slaughtered sheep, a bushel of roasted grain, 100 clusters of raisins, and 200 fig cakes. She packed all of these on donkeys and sent them with servants, saying, "Bring these to David as a gift. I will follow shortly." When she was still far off, she could see David at a distance. He was saying to his men, "What good was it that we protected Nabal's men? Certainly not one of them will be alive tomorrow morning." Then Abigail approached David. She got off her donkey and she bowed low to the ground, saying to him, "I take responsibility for everything that has happened. Please disregard my husband. He is a fool, just as his name says. Please accept this gift. Please save yourself from an act of violence. I know that when God makes you ruler of Israel, you will have a great dynasty." Well, then David said to her, "Thank you for saving me from this act of vengeance. You can go home, rest assured that I will not kill your husband this day." When Abigail went home, she found that her husband was drunk from the festivities of sheep shearing, and so she didn't tell him anything until the next morning when he was sober. Then she told him everything that she had done, and his heart failed him. He became paralyzed. And 10 days later, God struck him, and he died. Then David sent servants to Abigail, saying, "Your husband has suffered for his sins. We have come to take you to David to be his wife." And so Abigail took 5 of her maidservants with her, and she did become David's wife. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I love this story about King David and Abigail because it is a lesser known story about a bold woman in the Bible. All of the odds are stacked against her, and yet Abigail takes matters into her own hands and she saves the day. In this story, I feel like her reckoning, that moment of admitting that there is a problem, happens when that servant comes to her and says, "You have to do something about this." And she doesn't seem to have much of a rumble at all, because in an instant, she is immediately at work, gathering all of those supplies. Maybe it is while she is gathering all of that food that she is thinking to herself, what will I say to King David to save him from killing all of these men that I care about? Or maybe all along, as she has been suffering from this abusive husband, maybe she had been dreaming about how to get out of this marriage. Maybe she has had to cover for Nabal before, covering up for his foolishness. Or maybe in this moment, she finally has an experience of hope. And so she is willing to take action because she knows that she can make a difference here. And so she does. She saves the day. And that is her revolution as she falls on her knees before King David, and she takes full responsibility for something that she didn't do. And she saves David from killing her husband and all of his men. So here are this week's 6 questions. I've shared with you what I think are Abigail's moments of reckoning and rumble and revolution. Where do you think David is in this process? As he is dealing with Saul in the chapter before and after this one, and as he is preparing to become king. Do you think this is a reckoning, or part of his rumble, or even revolution? Where do you think Abigail got her courage from? She certainly is making a bold move here, not just in taking all of this food to David, but to do it without getting her husband's permission. How do you think Abigail changed David's life? She becomes his wife and she bears him one son. But aside from that, she really isn't mentioned in Scripture again. And yet, how do you think she helped David to be a better king? What story from your life, or what story from today's news, do you think is informed by this story? Could you find more insight into your own life because of this story of Abigail and David? Where is God in this story? And what do you think you need to bring yourself to revolution? What is that one thing, that one emotion, that one process that you need to do that can bring yourself to revolution, to real life change, to dealing with whatever issue is on your heart and on your mind? May God be with you. I hope you are able to have these discussions in your household, or you can join me for Zoom discussion Wednesday at 6 p.m. God be with you.